afternoon, everyone. Um, I understand this is post-lunch, and then most of you have already had one session which went pretty long. So we would try to keep it as interesting as possible. And fortunately, I've always been really fortunate every time I get a panel in conference. It's one of the most interesting panels. And I'm pretty sure these three gentlemen out there would agree to what I'm saying. And you would know in few minutes. So without further ado, what I would like to do is go round robin, have a round of introduction, and also take a viewpoint on the current topic that we're talking about.
Yeah, so I run a brokerage firm called Zerodha. So we are 8 years old. We are close to 1 million clients and the second largest brokerage in India right now. And we've grown this business without any advertisement. So we haven't spent a single penny on any ad till now, and it's been through our communities actually. So so we run very popular education initiatives, which is very engaging and builds a community around. So every client who's come to us today is through word of mouth. So yeah, so I guess that's part of the topic that we are talking about today.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Siddharth Mangharam. I'm the founder and CEO of Floh. Our job is to eradicate loneliness. We started off with building a community for single people, which is very, very vibrant. We have over 7,000 members. And it's now expanded to people who are not looking for romantic relationships only. So we also have communities for cancer survivors, for people who are about to deliver a child, for postpartum mothers, etc. And like Nitin's business, I can't say that we haven't spent anything on marketing. We've spent a very, very, very insignificant amount. And most of our business has come through word of mouth. The anchor of what we do and the pivot of everything that we do at Floh is actually community driven. And as the conversation goes on, I'll be happy to share some of our insights around how we've been successful in driving the energy of the community to drive to result in great business outcomes. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Karan Virwani, the CWeO of WeWork India. You see the we in the title. That's something that we follow at WeWork. It's always we over me, and that's been sort of the success and the driving force of everything we do at WeWork. It's about using space, using technology, and the human element to actually create communities within the workspace, and also through our digital platform, and we've grown that to about 250,000 members all over the world, which is growing at about 20,000 users every month. And we have created a global community that is extremely diverse, using our buildings and our physical space as a vehicle to get those communities to actually meet each other and have physical interactions. And that's what we do every day.
Thank you. My first question is to you, Siddharth. A lot have been talked about network businesses, platform businesses, communities, Airbnbs, Ubers of the world. In simple word for the audience and for myself as well, I want to understand from you, how do you look at community businesses, and what are some of the key constraints or characteristics of these kind of businesses?
So we started this business actually very small, and it was envisaged as a way for single people to meet in the real world, as against just on an app or online. And so we organize a lot of events, which means that on the single side of the business, you need men and women who are two sides of the platform. You need the platform itself, which is Floh, and then you need to have partners that plug into your platform so that they can be the service providers to all the activities that we host for our community. When we started off, very frankly, we were very naive. We just said, hey, let's just roll with it in true entrepreneurial spirit. And I think over time, it's become a lot more sophisticated. And there are very key elements of the platform business that we focus on. One of them is on the curation. So if a person has to get into Floh, they actually have to be interviewed by us. We have to actually approve their membership, and they pay us a subscription fee. And these all act as filters to make sure that the final customers that we get are exactly the kind of people that we want on our platform. Once the person's in, not only do they get the opportunity to connect one-on-one, but again, because we're so confident of the quality of people, we actually enable them to meet in groups, both in activities that we organize as a platform, as well as the platform enables them to organize their own activities and events. And a lot of this is driven obviously by technology. So more than 50% of the team is actually engineers. And the third element that is absolutely critical in most platforms, certainly in ours, is a set of rules that everybody plays by for the partners, for the members, for our employees, and for anybody else who wants to interact with us. And that um, articulation of house rules is what keeps the platform actually growing, and it builds on its own reputation. Without that set of rules, you run the risk of a lot of spam, a lot of scams, a lot of devolution into nothingness, really. So I think it's been an evolving journey for us. What started off as a hobby project then has spanned, several cities. We've gotten about maybe 1,200, 1,300 people married through the platform. Although that's not the only reason that they come in. And no, I mean, they've founded companies together. They've gone on trips together. And I think the latest evolution of this platform is when people keep renewing their membership and we ask them, you've obviously not found a partner, but why are you giving us this money? And they say it's because of the quality of the people that I'm meeting, and it's become a support system for me. And it is really my go-to place every weekend, so that I don't have to either think about stuff, and I know that I'm never going to be lonely, which then enabled us to expand it to other cohorts like cancer survivors, etc., who are actually at a risk of being very lonely, but they're not looking for a romantic relationship. So I think, Vaibhav, that's a sort of a quick assessment of how we've evolved also as a platform. And I think there are some parts which are common to all platforms, and there are some that are specific to Floh.
Sounds fair. And actually, some people find panelists on that Flow network as well. I mean, the first time I met Siddharth was when I joined Flow in 2012, I guess, 2012. Um, um, so, a couple of interesting things that you talked about, the rules and the policies of the platform, and we have all heard examples of, certain things that went wrong in the Airbnb kind of platform and Uber's kind of platform. So, Nitin, my question is to you that, you run a very different kind of a community, right? And it's, one is, I would also like you to explain the kind of community that you have at Zerodha and the exact business model around it and the kind of challenges that you face, owing to that uniqueness of that community. It could be around security or it could be around different policies.
Yeah, so the people who come engage in these initiatives that we offer are people who actively trade the markets, right? So they are either investing, they're day traders, they're futures and options traders. So what it means is uh, every time market moves, there is a notional P&L, right? Either a profit or a loss, right? And so usually when people are making losses, they're a lot more volatile than when they're making profits, right? So one of the biggest challenges of running what we run is when people lose money, they look at someone to blame, right? And we happen to be the first place to go after, right? So I think the biggest challenge we have is to kind of keep that in check, right? As in of people just going wild on the platform and bad mouthing, becoming personal. So there's a lot of moderation that happens, So I mean, ideally in open communities, so there shouldn't be any moderation, but unfortunately, I've realized that it's just not possible, right? So that's how we. So typically, the only real rule that we have is to one, don't advise, right? Because I mean, I don't know how many of you receive stock tips, as a call or as a SMS. Everyone out there, who's advising tries to get onto any platform where he can say, "I'll tell you the next big stock tip that'll make you a lot of money, and you pay me X money for this," right? So a lot of that happens. So first thing that we curate is to actually get those people out. So second thing is to make sure that if people are extremely volatile and they're kind of degrading the community, we just block them out. So it backfires. They then go to Twitter and Facebook and start ranting, but then it has to be done to just keep it all sane. So
I mean, I understand you were pretty much the pioneer of the discount brokerage trading in India, right? What were some of the initial challenges building the business up from grounds up, and how when you start growing the community from 1 to 10 to million, what was the key challenge that you were facing?
I think the first big challenge was I'm a South Indian Brahmin boy, right? So the first challenge has been to tell my folks that I have a real job. So because I've been trading for a long time, and trading isn't really looked upon as a serious thing to do in especially in Bangalore, in Jayanagar, with a Brahmin father mother. So right. So that was a big challenge. But then today they call it passion, but back then they were calling it foolishness. So but I'm exactly same what I was 10 years back to what I am today, right? So I think the big challenge for me was first to put a team up, right? Because the folks I knew, their parents were saying the same thing, right? As in, stay away from trading, stay away from broking, so etc. Right? So the biggest challenge was that to actually build a team behind the idea, right? Second thing was, in the business of money, people don't trust you very easily, right? As in, uh, you know, because people today, so 1 million clients today keep their hard-earned savings and stocks and money with us, right? As in, and that trust can't be really built very easily, right? So I think the first 10,000 clients took us like 3 years. Right? Today we open 40, 50,000 every month, right? As a new accounts, uh, so it's, but the thing about this trust piece is also is that once you kind of get over that barrier, once people trust you and you have a good product, the power of word of mouth is extremely huge. I mean, it's just crazy. The month of January we opened, we got 80,000 new clients. The first 5 years we got 80,000 clients, right? And then I'm going and asking the sales guys, dude, why are all these people opening accounts? I mean, as in, how are they even finding us, right? As in, and all of that, because we suddenly, every time we go beyond a trust kind of a barrier, so, and what also helps in that creating the trust with the client is all this community initiative, right? Is that I actually put my head on the table, and you know people take pot shots at it when things go wrong, but then if I hadn't done what I had done, I think that trust couldn't have been gained so fast, right? Because banks, etc., have taken decades before people trust them with their, right? So we are 7+ years, so we have done it in extremely quick time. So something that we have done differently in financial services business is actually put put our faces out there, and then talk about what we do as a business, etc. Even when things go bad. So
Great. So I think Karan must be feeling lonely and left out, right?
All alone on this side.
You want to go on Flow?
I'm gonna join Flow after this.
So, Karan, what's happening at WeWork? I mean, a lot have been talked about in recent past around, the business models and how a lot of negative publicity as well, but a lot of people talk really positive stuff about the kind of places that you have built. So, what's really happening and how you are building the different kind of community business?
Sure. So, I mean, on the valuation front and all of that other talk, we actually don't really pay too much attention to, because all of that is kind of taken out of context. When you're building a business that is so big and has reached such a scale, you're building globally and you're trying to, grow this business where you're adding basically 1 million square foot of actual brick and mortar real estate every single month, and controlling tens of millions of that now, and trying to grow that in countries like China, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in Europe, and in America. There is money that needs to be spent in order to do that. So that's going to always continue to happen. And, we're really focused on our mission of actually bringing people closer together. That's really what we focus on day in and day out. So the way we design our spaces, the way that our technology is built, the way that our community teams actually operate our spaces, the whole thing is revolves around actually creating community and bringing people closer together. So we connect businesses on a daily basis, and when we have about whatever 200,000 or over 200,000 members with us, about 50% of those members have actually done business with one another through the network. And for us, that's a super powerful thing. And as we keep scaling and can expand to further corners of the world, we're actually connecting businesses and ideas that are sprouted up or come into existence from all over the planet onto one single platform. And the power of that is actually massive and can have an extremely huge impact on just the economic impact that WeWork is having, or even a building has on a multiple for the community within it and also the community outside is almost like a 2 to 3 time economic multiple, right? And so where really when we look at the business, it's about more about that impact than the valuation and whatever it is. When Adam and Miguel really started this business, and even now, it's always looked at as a 100-year business and not a 5-year and 10-year business. We're really betting on the fact that the way people want to work and the environment that people want in their workplace and the technology that is needed in the workplace is only going to keep changing till the in the next 50, 60, 70 years. If you look at real estate and the workplace, it's actually been the same for the last 50 years, but everything else has changed around it, right? Businesses have changed, the needs of the actual people within that space have changed. The whole generation has changed. This generation that you're seeing coming into the workforce in the next 50 years, millennials and your Gen X and Gen Y and all of these people have grown up sharing all of the time. You've grown up sharing your life on Instagram. You've grown up sharing memories. You've grown up sharing a cab. You've grown up sharing an apartment. You've grown up, in that environment. So that wall of like privacy and being secluded on your own has completely dropped. And what our members really come into WeWork, you're already coming into this community with the mindset that being part of this community and being part of something a lot larger than just your single interest is actually much better for you, and it's much better for your business because it opens the doors to so many other opportunities that would have never existed just being in sort of your own space or not open to that, right? And what we see now is that it's not just entrepreneurs and smaller businesses that are looking to network and share ideas. It's actually large companies as well coming to us and saying that my employees want to be a lot more engaged and they want to feel happier about coming to work, and they want to see the ideas that other people are building in the market so that you get inspired to actually implement that or use that into your own business. um, and that's really like the world we're going to, and you see that across many businesses, right? Like Floh, Zerodha. It's all with the same principle, and it's not a coincidence that the growth has probably exploded in the last 2 3 years as opposed to sort of like 5 10 years before that. It's just that the needs of people in the world have changed, and the way people look at the world and daily things has become completely different, and it's just a natural progression into what's happening in the world, and that's really what we're seeing. Not just in India, we're seeing it in literally every single country around the world.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Some of the interesting numbers around WeWork. We were just discussing that. It's 250,000 capacity right now around the globe.
250,000 members across the world and 250 locations. We're in 73 cities, I believe, and about 30 countries. Yeah, like 20,
And
20 plus
by the year
countries.
end,
By the year end, we'll be in 73 countries, and hopefully about half like close to around 500,000 actual members. We're adding about 20,000 members every single month, and actually, in December of this year, on one day, we'll be opening 73 buildings across the world in one day.
wow,
Yeah.
it's like 500,000 people by year end.
Yep.
So there's like a proper captive audience that you can use for creating any new kind of business, right? We were just discussing.
Yeah, I mean the opportunity is amazing, but just think about it. It's also the same opportunity for literally all of the businesses within our community to create a business opportunity from that community, right? It's not just WeWork that can start selling services to these 500,000 people. Actually, every single company that is part of the 500,000 people can start selling their services to 500,000 more people, and that's the power of what we're seeing.
By the way, we agreed on a discounted rate for Zinnov for giving some
Yeah.
marketing numbers out there. So, Siddharth, you seem to be having a very different kind of community network in my view, and I would like you to prove me wrong actually from what I'm going to say now. In a dating or a making singles meet kind of a platform, driving affiliation within the community members or driving the sense of openness where people can go out and say, "Oh, I'm a member of Flow," or not many people would go out and say, "Oh, I use Tinder," right? Uh, sim- a similar effect can also happen in Flow. So how do you? I mean, and I've been a member of Flow from 2012, so it's coming from a member now. I mean, maybe I'm not anymore eventually, but
You
um,
said it in a conference.
but I did. I agree. My point was you won't find many such probably, and that's my view because whatever I've seen being part of Flow, you won't find that sense of openness about being affiliated to a particular community, which you would probably find in the other two businesses that we have. So how do you what kind of different nuances that brings in specifically in your business?
Sure. I think it's a great question, and I do agree with you, Vaibhav, that it's not like everybody's a Vaibhav who's on stage and on camera saying that I'm a Flow member. We do face that resistance sometimes, and I don't think it's just an Indian thing. It's probably accentuated a little more in India. But frankly, the um, advent of Tinder has been very, very helpful to us because Tinder is a first of all on the record. I think it's a great product, very well designed. So objectively speaking, I think it serves a certain purpose, and we serve a very different purpose. So when the audiences are sort of divided based on what their intent is, and you go to Tinder for something, you come to Flow for something completely different. I think that has helped us actually in a very big way. The other thing that's very different about what we do is that it's not just one-on-one dating, right? It is a lot of people coming together at experiences. We've hosted about 1,000 events, and what we've also got is a hierarchy within the membership. And if you've attended a certain number of events, you can actually become a host. So we will actually train you how to host an event, just the way Airbnb would probably onboard a host. And so we actually have one employee who hosts from our side 1,000 events, but we have a team of maybe 100 different hosts across the country who take great pride in being not only affiliated with Flow but also doing a lot of um, events on Flow's behalf. So that sense of community can only happen when you believe that you're in a safe space. And based on our curation, so all the dots are connected, right? You start with really good raw material, uh, and then whatever you do after that, you have a lot more degrees of freedom within the community that perhaps a conventional dating app or a matrimonial service cannot do, because they will not have the confidence to get 20 of their members together without an unsavory experience happening over there. But we have the ability to do that. So I think creating the safe space, and like Nitin mentioned, that trust factor is so critical, right? And it's in every business. It's not just in broking or in getting people together. That has been extremely powerful. And so then what happens then beyond that is that people look at us much beyond finding a partner, and that's why we've had members who've been with us for several years and keep renewing their membership, because they find that affinity is really strong, because they know that wherever they go in the country, they will meet people at Flow who are of the same wavelength and yet very diverse. So if you are a consultant, you would go perhaps and to a Flow event, you'll meet a designer, you'd meet a lawyer, you'd meet a person who works for an NGO, you'd meet an investment banker, and you'll definitely meet some entrepreneurs. So that affinity building it has happened by design, and yet, it wasn't like there was this master plan when we started. But I think we're very particular about um, the curation, which allows for people to feel like they belong to a fairly exclusive network, because we are not for everybody. Um and we get maybe about 8% of the people who apply to us actually finally make it into Flow, because there's a lot of trash that comes in, frankly. There's a lot of rubbish that comes in, which will get onto every other platform. And we are not a freemium service, we are a pay to play service. So once you're in, there's a very strong willingness to actually share, to do a lot of the things that Karan spoke about. That you want to feel like you're much more when you're contributing to the community. And so we have a app. It's an award-winning app from Apple. We also obviously have an Android app, and on the app we have these sub communities. There are hundreds of them. So in the middle of the night, there are people that are communicating about the World Cup right now. You won't see that on Tinder. You won't see that on a matrimonial app. But because they feel comfortable sharing, that's why they're able to come out and communicate with each other. So I think it really comes down to a lot of trust at the end of the day.
So when did this pivoting happen? When did you actually realize the full potential of the
Very good
network?
question. And again, I think in true entrepreneurial honesty, it wasn't, I mean, I have an MBA and all that stuff. It wasn't part of some big business plan. In the beginning, I was with my team hosting all these events, and then I got dengue, and I couldn't travel. So I called one of the members, and she said, "Listen, I'll host all your events." And so that led to this huge surge of support actually from our entire community. And after that day, I've never hosted an event. And we've had the entire community. When I say I mean Floh has never hosted an event. Everything is done by our community. And then when we invested a lot more in technology, we found that obviously people are looking for a partner. They are looking to casually date also. They're looking to get married. There's a whole range. But at the most foundational level, we are a social species, and companionship is a basic human condition. So that's what they're really seeking. And when we enable that through technology, I think I mean, there's our DAU to MAU ratio, the daily active users to monthly active users, is over 45%. There are very few apps in the world that, of course, Facebook, WhatsApp are above 50%, but there are very few apps on the world that will boast of such a high level of engagement. And it could just be someone coming in. We have a community, believe it or not. This was a big surprise for us. We have a community that's for good morning messages, okay? And it's not, so everybody in the team was dead against it. And I'm like, listen, the India is breaking WhatsApp with this. There must be something to it. So we didn't call it good morning. We call it get inspired. And every morning there are people who are like saying, posting all this stuff. I'm not the audience. I don't think Karan is, because he's like rolling his eyes over there. No judgment, right? But there are people who are posting stuff over there, and they're having these long discussions on whatever that quotation has been posted at 6 in the morning. It's going on till 10 in the night. Now, when you think of what's going on over there, again, you have to suspend your judgment, and you have to say, okay, what is the value that my member is getting from this community? They feel very, very important. And then they actually organize their own meetups. They're saying, hey, this looks like a really good book that you've taken this quote from. Let's meet at this coffee shop, or let's meet at WeWork and discuss this book. And so that's when you're really adding a lot of affinity. So I think that affinity is extremely strong once you're in the community. We still don't have people, like I said, going to the rooftop and saying, I am a Flow member, at least not as much as we would like them to. We see about 1 or 2 couples get hitched every day or every second day. So they come back to us, and obviously that's a very positive story. But we don't want to position ourselves as a matchmaking service, so we don't actually amplify that necessarily. And that, funnily enough, has led to a lot more affinity. Because when you position yourself as, you're here to find somebody, there's a lot of pressure. And then it sort of changes the dynamic in the room.
Fair enough. Very interesting point, Siddharth. But I don't want to leave out Nitin now. I mean, might as well. He joined Flow, but I would still not leave him out. So, Nitin, you have a very unique business. In fact, all three businesses we have right now are pretty unique. But in your case, there's a lot of financial and PII data that we're dealing with potentially. So, what kind of data privacy, and especially after GDPR, which may not affect the kind of users you have in India, but um, what kind of futuristic mechanisms that you would put in place, or how do you see the entire privacy discussion going around what you have right now?
Yeah, so our client database, right? So that's never exposed anywhere, right? As in it's it's as secure as it can get. So the communities don't really, so we haven't plugged a client database onto the communities that we have, right? As in, so that is, so people who come participate in all of this use Facebook as login or Google as login. So so none of their trading data, none of their personal data ever actually gets onto a platform outside the trading platform. So we potentially could have done it. We could have given that one login to kind of, kind of tie it all together. But we decided to take the other route, because also when it comes about finance, a lot of people like to be in a pseudo form of sorts, so they don't want to reveal who they are. So most people on our platforms are actually using pseudonames, So, I mean, we didn't want them to feel that, people, for example, when they lose money, right, they want to talk about it, right? And everyone's got a big ego, right? I mean, if not a big ego, everyone's got some amount of ego. So it's very tough to accept it that you've lost money, right? And talk about it, right? And but then being anonymous, being pseudo actually helps in, also helps in getting their engagement going. So today we have people who come talk about the bad trades they did, and then there are others who come and jump and say what exactly was bad. So yeah, so I mean the privacy thing doesn't really affect us as much, so because the client data, etc., that we have is as secure as it can get, so it's kind of.
Any excitement around blockchain?
I haven't really found a real life use case for it yet, so.
Okay. So I think we have 5 more minutes. We can open up for a couple of questions.
Yeah, I have a question. So, I'm Mohammed. I'm from Venture Base Camp. We're building a course to train startup entrepreneurs inside incubators to make them more investable. I had a question regarding the knowledge of the community. So, a community is basically a collective knowledge base. And your members that are inside there, someone's knowledge, someone's expertise can be someone else's need. Have you done any work in the respect of mining their knowledge, their expertise, so that someone else in the community can use it? And what has been your learning regarding that?
So, what you mentioned, we actually do on a daily basis. So, in every single building, you have many different companies. You could have a graphic designer to, a really large tech company. And all of these guys have expertise. You have people working within these companies that have different expertise. We constantly make sure that through various different tools, whether it's events or whether it's a community team or whether it's a digital platform, these members are actually already sharing information with each other. And it goes back to what Siddharth was also saying, is that like when you're part of a community, you're actually more open to anyone who's also in that community to actually share a lot more information and be much more open than you would be if it was someone outside of that community, right? So what we've seen is that we've seen members actually helping other members out in their business, or giving them services or expertise or advice with no sort of monetary, whatever, no transaction happening between these two. It's just two people who have the same sort of like philosophy that I just want to share my idea, or ask for help or give help. It's really beautiful to just see that happen very naturally. So we don't really like force it. We don't force people to interact with each other. But just being part of the community, seeing each other every day, or knowing that this person also is coming in here every day, working really hard to build whatever they're passionate about, and maybe I can help them a little bit because I had some experience with this. We've seen that actually happen really naturally, and that's one of the actual beauties of being part of a larger community, is that the walls of walls are just completely dropped, and people share ideas and information a lot more than if you were sort of in a silo.
Hi, my name is Shreyash, and I have a question for Nitin. Nitin, as we know, Zerodha offers zero charges for deliveries, right? So I understand it's good for the customers, but I just wanted to know your perspective that how is it good for Zerodha? Like, how Zerodha makes revenue, or like.
Right. Okay. So what is happening is when we started the business, we were looked upon as a broker who's meant for active day traders and futures and options traders, right? And that audience in India is less than 500,000, right? And we were trying to kind of break out of it, saying that, I mean, we can't build a business if your entire audience is just 500,000, right? I mean, so we wanted to kind of break out this whole thing around Zerodha being only for active traders, etc. So this was back in 2015 December. Over a drink, me and some of the guys, we decided let's just go zero brokerage on equity investing, because anyways we weren't really making too much money through that. So as I said, it wasn't really like a big plan. I mean, this was accidental that we went zero, but then once we went zero on equity investing, for the first time in our business, virality kind of kicked in. Right? People started talking about the fact that, oh, there's this company which offers at zero. And then once the audience grew, automatically, even without charging anything for it, we found other verticals through which we could make money. So I think it's one of those economies of scale kind of a model, right? If you have enough people, there are ways to make money. So.
I think one last question.
So Nitin, actually you did answer the first part of the question I had. So my next question is, so what you just illustrated, is that common? Is that a common thinking outside India as well? Because we see startups like Robinhood doing the same thing, and that's a developed economy. So saving money and doing things in a cheaper fashion, so to say, is that like an Indian mindset, or is that, do you think, applies to regions outside India as well?
No, I mean, so the thing is, I don't think, be it Robinhood or be it us, right? I don't think it's a low cost which has got us new clients. It's actually the product. I mean, there have been multiple people who. I was a franchisee of Reliance Securities who launched in 2006. So they tried to attempt a similar kind of a pricing model, but failed because the product wasn't great, right? I mean, so today we work because it is at low cost and a better product to what's available in the market, right? And even Robinhood is the same thing, right? I mean, they have a better product than the rest of the market. That's why people use it, People, especially when it comes to money, I mean, I wouldn't keep my money in Amanat Cooperative Bank because they give me 12% on my fixed deposit, right? As in, it doesn't work, right? As in, you need it to be, a trustworthy, good product, So I think that's what has worked for us. We've been able to, kind of build a good product and still continue to offer at low cost. And then the good thing about financial services businesses, there's so many other verticals, right? I mean, we've just started our lending business, and we're starting our insurance broking, we started our direct mutual funds piece. So, you can kind of spin off all these verticals because client assets sit with you, right? And once a relationship is built, you can kind of sell multiple things. And I think the difference between us and a Robinhood is that we've been able to do this without really raising any capital, right? I mean, we didn't, we're not in this to raise money, burn capital, get clients, and, at zero cost, right? I mean, so every client who's coming, opening an account, starting a relationship, we're actually making money off him, So it's not like one of those burn money first and then make money, So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we had pretty interesting session, and then hopefully over the last 2 days, for all the information overload, you would probably remember some of the points here. And since all the three businesses are pretty unique in the way in the way they're building their communities. So that's all we have for today. Thank you so much, Siddharth. Thank you, Nithin.